Again, you're good about doing the statistics and stuff. And I was like, let me, you know, you doing it for us helps me to have talking points with people.
You know, and interestingly enough, I kind of get in there and noodle around on the numbers that GGAR provides anyways, just because I like to play with it and see what changes if, you know, for example, this month, you know, you got 1,412 sold sides that started with a closing date in June, or at least a contract date in June. So you've got 1,412, and out of those, you've got an average days on market of 55, which drops down almost 5 days.
Yeah, because we were at 60.
From May. So you're at 55 right now. And if you take out a couple of whales that closed this month, there's a $3 million closing in there, and a couple of $50,000 closings. You're actually more like 51.
Okay.
Number tweaks to 51, which is a pretty dramatic drop, which, I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. That's just inventory needs to happen. And
yeah,
because you know, you've got 1,222 new listings on the hot sheets as of today, and that's not just Greenville. Greenville's got somewhere around 400 of those.
Okay.
And you got close to 1,100 pendings also for the month. So that's gonna bring us a little bit more active than end of Q1, which is pretty amazing considering the fact that, you know, Q2 started at the bottom.
Right.
And you know, that just really bodes well. And so you're looking at right now, Greenville Large, 1,412 solds in this month. So that gives us a bump up of just a little bit more than, it's a little bit more than a 12% bump up in the right direction as far as sold sides. I think a lot of those had a pretty long contingency window or a long contract to close window, which is understandable.
Right.
Again, you're looking at 272, 798 for an average sales price. Last month we were 269. That's another 4-ish% bump, which is just unbelievable, and a drop in 5 days on market on average. So your days on market down 5 days, almost 7%. Price up about 4%, and we've had a 12 to 13%, depending on how you calculate the data, increase in sales activity. With a really promising, that's almost 2,200 in the system starting in June, either pending or under contract, contingency contract. So that's basically 2 months worth of healthy sales volume in the first 25 days of this month, which is nice. But, you know, 400 new listings, I especially in the price point that it needs to be, I don't know if that's enough to continue us forward into July without more inventory. Do you?
I don't think it is. And again, that's the struggle. So here's an interesting, so you're looking at that new construction. You know, I have the one under contract for Ryan Holmes. I wrote it a week ago. I still don't have paperwork. They did 100 contracts last week from like Thursday to Sunday. So wow. Does that put things in perspective looking at new construction, resales? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's what she told me. She said, so we are so backlogged, it's taking us much longer to get things turned around.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I'm looking at you know, the active number right now. If you compare 2019 to 2020, that would actually put 2020 with those 1,400. Unless there's more, I'm more likely there's going to be more to add before the end of before tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, we've got 3 closings tomorrow, so what it looks like is up almost 3% for current solds. And January 31st to May 31st, we were down 1%. So that means that the month of June, they've literally caught up and passed the level of last year. With new construction starts from the county, new construction starts are down like 6.5%, despite the fact that you would think, what do you mean? There's building going on everywhere. But
right.
I think that stuff is still not able to keep up with the pace of people willing to write a contract on a new construction right now.
Well, there's that too. And also they stopped during the COVID. Some of the builders stopped doing new builds. You were only selling what they had in inventory. So when is that, or when did that start again? So that may be lagging too.
Oh, I 100% agree, because you got some of the larger production builders had to cut it down, and then you've got some of the one-off groups down here and some of the local construction teams still rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of differentiation there between, you know, what's going on and what will be going on in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I don't know. It's interesting to think about, because I'm not sure how that's going to play into, you know, with the summer and people being out. I don't know how that's going to affect if we're going to continue to see a rise in things. I don't know. I don't see a way that there's another lockdown type of scenario. I just think that you might see people keep pushing things down the road into where I don't know if August might be crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think June, and you know, we'll see it play out the rest of this month. I think into July. I think August may be affected some because of the whole school thing,
right?
And that push out. People are, you know, trying to figure that out depending on what they decide, both school, colleges, things like that. So I think August, we may see a little bit of a slowdown. I don't know. And I feel like right now people feel pressure. If they have to move or they really want to move, we need to do it, because we don't have a whole lot to choose from. And if we don't do it, we may not have an opportunity.
I totally agree, which I think is just all the more reason why, you know, even still, you know, it's not precise science, but, you know, every new listing that comes on, you know, within a half-mile radius, it's statistically likely, like 30 to 40% likely, that there will be 1 to 2 more listings within a half-a-mile radius of that because of the new listing that happens. And then also too, having neighborhoods where people are just starved, circle prospecting around any showing that you've got or any home that gets made an offer on, to say it's that's right now. If we can get some folks to focus on that from a prospecting standpoint and have that to lean on, right? I hope that you're absolutely right. People are feeling pressured, and it lends itself to a bunch of different things. One, we don't know really what the landscape of school is, how that's going to actually pan out, right? People right now are planning on, you know, come hell or high water, including our kindergarten stuff, you know, come hell or high water, however it's going to look, it's going to happen in person, right? And so the college campuses coming back in August, that's going to be something that I don't really know how it's going to look in action. You know, it could change rapidly, but who knows? But at least everybody's planning on it. So yeah, I mean, if people got to move for a job, they got to move for a job. Or if the kids are going to school and they're trying to do the empty nest thing, now is the time to do the empty nest thing rather than later, and vice versa. Right. And then you've got November, and, you know, November historically for presidential election years, that September, October lead up is pretty good historically. But at the middle part of October, right up until that election, stuff just goes and stops. Right. So, you know, I think we might see kind of a herky-jerky next couple of months, but you know, inventory would probably be the only thing that could control how herky-jerky that is.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, with the election coming up and knowing interest rates are great and they're saying they're supposed to stay great to the election, I think that's going to be the other push. What's going to come? And again, people are going to feel pressured to act as quickly as possible before the rates change potentially, or, you know, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, we definitely need inventory. I mean,
Yeah.
I was hoping this would help it in some way, but I think it's gotten worse.
You know, things looked as if we were, you know, 2 months ago, or well, really at the beginning of May, so almost 2 months ago, there was that slight expansion in inventory, but it was really because showings were down 50%, right? And so that's why we took that 50% hit in May. But, you know, June is, well, 50% hit in April and into May, because May was down only 17% over year. But this month, now you're up almost 15% on activity for solds. That's again, for a third straight month, there's been a decline in days on market and an increase, basically the exact same in average sold price. That's a formula for, you got to keep shoveling fuel in the engine or the engine's not going to run.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
So that being said, I mean, what are you doing right now as far as
prospecting, building
new business generation?
New business.
Let's call it new business generation.
Are you going to send this to others?
That's a very sugar-coated thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of it, like I met with people the other night that have a daughter going off to college and want to move in the fall. So planning. So, I mean, really, I'm talking to people. I'll be honest, I'm not prospecting as much as I should be, but, you know, working my sphere, talking to people, helping to educate and helping them to plan. Because I have them looking out, like, I'm not ready now. Because I said, if you listed your house now, I mean, this is a house that's going to be under 170. You know, it'll go because we don't have the inventory. You know, and so other people, just talking to them and educating them. I'm not prospecting as much as I should be, to be honest.
Well, it's a tricky situation right now, because you have one end of the spectrum is out there, you know, not all up in everybody's business, personal and physical space wise, and not wearing masks and not doing the stuff that they're supposed to. And then there's the people that are like, hey, listen, no, how dare you call me right now? Yeah. Right. So it is a difficult dance, but I think educating people right now goes so much further than it's ever gone, just because people don't have answers to much of anything right now, including us. But one thing we can lean on is, you know, I know what the data says, and like, really that's that. And whether it's somebody else getting curious and about selling their home because they see a sign go up down the street, and being able to have somebody to lean on because as soon as that sign goes up, the person's wondering, well, I wonder what my home's worth, right? And, you know, to wonder as to whether or not that may have gone up or down, right? It's I don't know. Did my home price drop? And then they look at it and like, oh, my house is way better than that. And they're listing it for that. Oh God, what could happen to me? Well, being there as a resource of information, that's why I've kept on doing this on a weekly basis, because, you know, as much as we, you know, always need to keep our ear to the ground as far as hot sheets and monitoring the inventory, it's also helpful to just have a bite-sized chunk of up 12%, up 4%, down 7%, right? So, well,
and I think having those numbers, and that's what I did the other night, you know, during the appointment, is I had numbers. I had, you know, I'd gone through and done a CMA, and when you have the numbers and you can show it, it's not what they're hearing on TV. here are facts. I'm not making this up. I'm not like, here are the facts for our area. Here's where we are. So I think that is more impactful. And, you know, to your point, they were like, oh, wow, we didn't think the house was worth this much. So again, I'm like, here are your numbers. Like, this is how I arrived at this, black and white right here. So I think that is huge. And because we're kind of, it's going in a direction I don't think people understand, or perception wise, they don't think it would be going that way when you're looking at other parts of our world and economy. So
Right.
Yeah, so definitely having those numbers and those facts, it's huge. It makes a huge difference. And thank you for doing that.
Oh, well, it's what I'm here for. Honestly, that's all I got. I mean, that's really the meat and potatoes of it. We're closing a lot more sides. I know that currently right now we've only got 23 listings in the firm. So there's definitely room for there's definitely room for expansion right now.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I'll brag on her for a second. Stephanie, brand spanking new, has been out there basically planting her flag in her geography, right? So she lives over in Dunning, and so she's basically planted that flag out there in that triangle from Dunning to Greenville High and to Sullivan, and has been working with some withdrawals and some for sale by owner. She got a for sale by owner the other day that basically was like, thank you so much for just telling me what's checking in to see what's been going on.
Yeah.
Sure. There's a listing. Pow. So.
And I think, and that's a good point too. And from a prospecting standpoint, you have a lot of for sale by owners, or these fee for services, which essentially are for sale by owners, that don't fully understand, and also taking these numbers and educating them.
Yeah, and even more so the others, the withdrawals right now,
right,
back 30, 60, 90 days, just to figure out what went wrong and what might be able to go right. You know, what was the reason why?
Yeah.
What was the reason why it didn't work? Did it work because of you, or did it work because of something else? Right. And there's a whole lot of potential there. When I saw that number back from the beginning of June, 254 listings in June. Now, granted, there's a lot of them in Clinton and Easley and gosh knows where, but hey, those are still people.
Everybody's been affected.
Yep.
We've all been affected. So it's just looking at the overall upstate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why it's beneficial too, because some of our folks are coming in, especially relocating from elsewhere. They're looking to live all over creation, right. Honestly. So it doesn't have to just be Greenville specific, but Greenville specific, our closings and solds were up almost 18% month over month, but the amount of new listings that are back on the market in Greenville, what was that, 460 new listings this month. That's not even close to enough to keep pace with what demand is.
Mm-mm. No. So month wise, like, what's that inventory if we look at months? Is it like maybe 2 months worth?
It's something, it's in the neighborhood of, you know, given that plus the amount of inventory that's still sitting here. I mean, you're looking at somewhere around 2.5 to 2.7 months.
Okay.
It's it's less than 3, partly because I'm not sure if I caught all of the actives in Paragon, partly because some of them don't show up. That's which doesn't jive, but at least it gets close, right? It's still way below 3, and we got to like 4 months the beginning of May, which that went away fast.
Yeah.
Partly because we doubled our solds this month, which is bananas.
Well, again, they're back
out
there.
It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is.
Right, and we know the spring market got pushed, and so it is. Now's the time before August hits, because that's when school, everything else, and we already know typically it slows down some, but who knows?
Yeah, this year the only thing that we can actually count on is what's actually happening. right? So
well, it's interesting. I've skimmed some articles, and I feel like the national scope is kind of changing their tune a little bit. But again, I feel like we're insulated.
mm-hmm. Yeah, you've some of the market information, and that's the only bummer about doing this on Fridays, because I don't have as much reproduced data to give, so I've got to kind of go straight off of what I do on Paragon on a daily basis, but because they mostly publish these reports on Friday.
Right.
But it's been very, very interesting to look at the disparity between national market information, West Coast versus Northeast versus the Midwest, where the Midwest is still pretty much shut down in spots, and the Pacific Northwest is a completely different planet as far as I'm concerned, from like the way that real estate is being conducted in Washington and Oregon and California. I mean, that's a totally different world right now. They're it just not doing great, to be totally honest. And I feel bad about that, because it's nothing that they're doing. It's that they can't, or are being forced to not be able to work. And in the North and in states like New York and Connecticut and Rhode Island, they're way down too. But
well,
then
yeah,
Pennsylvania's rocking and rolling with. So who knows?
And it's crazy because Pennsylvania, I mean, they were all shut down too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's why I think, again, going back to the recession, going back to those things, we've been insulated, and we're continuing to be insulated at this point. How is that going to change? Who knows? But thankfully, in a positive way, I feel like, compared to some other things in other parts.
Yeah, because I mean, it takes into consideration the larger world of the places that are being negatively affected, and not that it's like hooray for us, but having a little bit more room to run, while still being able to take advantage of and call it urban environment with all of the trappings of modern day life, mm-hmm. and all those amenities that I don't know if a lot of the rural markets are going to benefit, but I also know that places like Atlanta and Charlotte and Alexandria, Virginia, and DC, and those places are going to look different. I feel like, look a lot different in terms of from a density standpoint.
Right.
And I think that I agree with you in that we're going to be positively benefited. I believe, just because of the way that our way of life kind of affords us the ability to sort of have the best of both worlds, that some other places can't. Plus, our cost of living is still
reasonable,
exceptional.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll see, but it all depends. We can't sell a guy from Manhattan that wants to get the heck out of Dodge anything if there's nothing for him to buy.
It's a problem.
That's it. It would be great if we worked in an industry where I could just call up the supplier and say, hey, listen, we're running low on doodads. Can you send us some more doodads? We're selling a bunch of those.
Right.
We can't do it.
It doesn't work that way. Nope. But then again, you look at Ryan Holmes having 100 contracts in like a 4 or 5 day span. So
it's weird. They actually have something that they can make and sell.
Right. So people are saying, I'll take that because there's nothing else I can take.
Bingo. And you know what? Hey, at least when you go the new construction route, you get to just pick what you want. And consumers nowadays are really, really specific. Mm-hmm. I want that thing in that color and that size, and we got to have absolutely that.
Right. So.
Well, we got to give them something to comparison shop with.
This is true. We'll keep working on it. That's all we can do. Yeah. So.
That's all we got.
Exactly.
All right. I'm gonna tend to the little kiddos. Thank you.
All right. You are welcome.
Nice.
I hope you feel better.
It was nice to have our little chat.
Thanks for our one-on-one.
You got it. Absolutely. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care.